Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has called for an election on April 28. This comes after U.S. President Donald Trump suggested Canada should become the 51st American state. These topics are likely to be important for voters as Carney seeks support for his party. This video will explore the key issues in the Canadian election, including party platforms, polling trends, potential outcomes, and other essential details. Why the election is important. Canada and the U.S. have close economic ties, a strong security partnership, and the world's longest undefended border. When U.S. President Donald Trump suggests Canada should become the 51st state, it changes the dynamic between the two countries. The Canadian election focuses on key issues like the economy, healthcare, climate change, housing, foreign policy, Indigenous rights, and immigration. However, the main concerns are the economy and President Donald Trump's comments about Canada becoming the 51st state. Here's a look at the election promises from Canada's major parties. How does that sound? Liberal leader Mark Carney promises to protect the auto industry with a $2 billion fund in response to U.S. tariffs, modernize the armed forces, and meet NATO's 2% defense spending target by 2030. He also proposes tax cuts for middle-class families and GST exemptions for first-time homebuyers. Pierre Poilievre, conservative leader, promises mandatory life sentences for large-scale illegal fentanyl trade, tax-free savings boosts, and tax cuts for low-income earners. He pledges to maintain federal programs, support seniors, eliminate GST on homes up to $1.3 million, and establish a military base in Iqaluit as the first permanent base since the end of the Cold War. Hey, let's talk about the election strategy. Liberal leader Mark Carney is taking a strong stand against President Trump's big tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, as well as other economic threats. The Liberals are focusing their campaign on protecting Canada's independence and standing up to outside pressure. Especially from the U.S. Carney is saying this election is a big deal. It's about choosing a government that can defend Canada's freedom and pride. The idea is to bring Canadians together with a sense of unity and strength. Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party are focused on strengthening Canada's economy and protecting its independence. With trade disputes and threats from U.S. President Donald Trump, Poilievre is promoting a Canada-first strategy to safeguard the country's interests. Let's focus on the seats that shape the election. The Canadian House of Commons has 343 seats, with Ontario holding the most at 122. Quebec, the second-largest province by seats, plays a big role in elections. If the Bloc Québécois, a party that focuses on Quebec's interests, wins many seats there, it could prevent either the Liberals or Conservatives from securing a majority. The Prairies, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba are mostly conservative, but some key ridings there could still shift the election outcome. Nepean, Windsor West, and Waterloo are crucial seats in Ontario that could shape the election's outcome. Abbotsford South Langley in British Columbia is another key seat to watch. Let's see what Canadians are thinking. As of March 31st, Poll Tracker showed the Liberals at 42% and the Conservatives at 37.5%, giving the Liberals a 4.5-point lead. On the same date, 338 Canada reported similar numbers, with the Liberals at 42% and the Conservatives at 38%, showing a 4-point lead. By April 9th, Poll Tracker updated its data, putting the Liberals at 44% and the Conservatives at 37.1%, maintaining a 4.5-point lead. Meanwhile, 338 Canada's April 9th update showed the Liberals at 44% and the Conservatives at 38%, widening the Liberal lead to 6 points. Here's how the election might unfold. A Liberal majority appears likely, though a minority government remains a less probable possibility. Poll Tracker projected that the Liberal Party will get 199 seats in the upcoming Canadian election and Conservatives will get 119 seats. In reality, the Poll Tracker predicted that the Liberal Party likely to gets 177 to 214 seats, and the Conservatives will get 107 to 134 seats. Let's explore voting trends by age group. Canadian youth are showing an unprecedented shift toward the Conservatives, with 36% of those aged 18 to 29 supporting them, according to an Abacus poll. This compares to 27% backing the NDP and just 19% favoring the Liberals. Despite this shift, younger voters overall remain more progressive than older generations. Meanwhile, older voters, who participate in greater numbers, continue to lean more conservative. Young voters typically have a turnout rate of 50% to 55% in federal elections, which is historically low. In contrast, middle-aged voters show higher participation, with turnout rates of 65% to 70%. Their preferences are more divided, often swinging between the conservatives and left-wing parties. Older voters have the highest participation rate, with turnout exceeding 70%, and they lean more conservative. Voter apathy, caused by disinterest, cynicism, or feeling that votes don't matter, can shift advantages between parties depending on the political climate, significantly impacting election results in Canada. Who benefits from voter apathy? Usually, it's the incumbents and established parties. Low turnout often favors the party in power or those with strong, loyal voter bases, as their core supporters are more likely to vote, while less engaged voters who might seek change tend to stay home. Historically, lower voter turnout often favors conservative parties, such as the Conservative Party of Canada. Their core supporters, older and wealthier demographics, are more consistent voters. In contrast, younger and lower-income voters, who typically support progressive parties like the Liberals, NDP, or Greens, are more likely to disengage during periods of voter apathy. Left-wing vote splitting is another key factor. Voter apathy often reduces turnout for left-leaning parties like the Liberals, NDP, and Greens, while conservative support remains steady. This can lead to conservative victories, even when the majority of voters overall support progressive parties. The upcoming election will shape the country's path on critical issues such as economic policy, social programs, international relations, and democratic stability. If the Conservatives win, tax cuts and deregulation are likely to take priority. Conversely, if the Liberals or NDP remain in power, we can expect increased social spending and progressive taxation. On the housing crisis, the next government's policies will be crucial in determining whether the situation improves or remains challenging. In healthcare, a Liberal or NDP-led government would likely focus on expanding public healthcare services. We might see greater private sector involvement. On climate policy and energy, a conservative win could lead to fewer initiatives, while a Liberal or NDP government would likely maintain or expand current efforts. Regarding immigration, this election will shape how Canada manages its rapid population growth. In foreign affairs, the outcome will influence Canada's global alliances. For Indigenous rights and reconciliation, the next government will decide whether efforts progress or lose momentum. What's your take on this election? How do you feel about Canada's foreign policy in today's political climate? Which political leader do you think best aligns with your values, and why? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoy discussions like this, don't forget to like and subscribe.